Today, I'm going to try to beat a Hardcore Nuzlocke of Pokemon Black 2 with only Psychic-type Pokemon. Now, although Psychic-type Pokemon had a crazy run back in the Gen 1 days, with the later introduction of terrifying Dark and Steel types, it has definitely lost a bit of its luster. And the Unova games are full of threatening trainers that I foresee being a huge problem. Couple that with a relatively limited number of encounters, especially given the locations in which they're found in the game, and we're looking to have quite the tough challenge ahead. One of the harder Monotype Nuzlockes at face value. With that said, let's see if we can beat Pokemon Black 2 with only the first Psychic type that we find on each route, no items in battle, gym leader based level caps in place, and the battle mode on set at all times. Before we dive into this Psychic types only nightmare, let me tell you about something that read my mind recently. I found out I was still being charged for a streaming and online service I had literally forgot existed, like AMC Plus and Google Workspace on an account that I no longer use. Like, I have the memory of a Wobbuffet sometimes, which is why today's sponsor, Rocket Money, is an absolute lifesaver. Rocket Money is a personal finance app that helps you cancel subscriptions, lower bills, and manage your money better, all in one place. And trust me, once you connect your bank account, Rocket Money identifies all of your subscriptions in a single list, including those you forgot you even had. Then, with just a few taps, Rocket Money can help you cancel the ones that you don't want anymore. No more navigating sketchy cancellation menus or sitting on hold with customer service. But here's what really got me hooked. Rocket Money can automatically scan your bills and help negotiate them down. We're talking internet, cable, phone bills. With just a couple of taps, their negotiators go to work trying to get you the best possible rate. And honestly, Rocket Money has helped its customers save up to $740 a year when using all of the app's premium features. They've helped customers save over $880 million in canceled subscriptions. Insane. Plus, you can create a custom budget in seconds that shows you exactly where your money's going with insights on your top spending categories so you can stay on track. It'll even notify you about upcoming charges or low balances to help avoid overdrafts. Take control of your finances today. Click the link in the description or scan the QR code on screen to get started for free. You can also unlock even more features with Premium. Now let's see if my Psychic types can predict this run going well. Our rival. First name, Hugh. Last name, Janus. What? It's canonical. Our adventure is apparently taking place in the appropriate season for once, my favorite one, fall. Or autumn if you're one of those fancy types. Bianca then gives us our starter Pokemon, and I'm gonna pick Tepig, which I name Pob, as I imagine Hugh's eventual Samurott will be the most challenging of the three for Psychic types. And lo and behold, Pob is an absolute legend, taking down his Oshawott with little issue.
I wasn't even driving.
Don't shut the f up, you f***ing piece of bacon!
With Bianca then kidnapping us to the Pokemon Center, she gives us some Pokeballs, officially starting our run since we can now catch actual Psychic types.
No, wait!
Now, I'm gonna cut straight to the chase. Technically, there is no Psychic type available in this game until after the second gym. But there is one legitimate way you can get a Psychic type prior to that, the Pokemon Dream Radar. This method has a bunch of cool Pokemon available before the first gym, but I'm gonna pick Bronzor as our starter that I named Mickey and which we catch at level 5. It has a serious neutral nature and it gets its hidden ability, normally a great thing, but instead of Heatproof or Levitate, we're gonna get Heavy Metal. Not ideal, but hey, it makes this run possible, so we can't complain. Okay, for real, what is that? That is the strangest object to ever see in a classroom. I genuinely don't know what I'm looking at. Some sort of furnace? Please help me out here. Anyway, after some training, it's time for the first gym leader, Charon, the normal type specialist and the rival in the original Black and White games. He leads with a Patrat that starts using Workup to boost its attack, and I'm very glad that Mickey starts off with a good moveset, as Confusion does about a quarter on him. He then hits a Bite, but fortunately no flinch, and the same happens on the next turn so we can take him down. If the Steel and Psychic type interactions were the same as prior gens, that likely wouldn't have gone so smoothly. His second and final Pokemon is then a Lillipup, which starts spamming Workup, and unfortunately I can't put it to sleep with Hypnosis since it has Vital Spirit. But I'd go for Confuse Ray, as if he hits himself in Confusion, the damage will be calculated using his now +2 attack stat. And he does hit himself on the next turn for massive damage, so our next attack brings him to the red, and then he potions. But we're able to bring him below half again, and then he hits himself again to give us the range to KO. Damn. Between that Confusion luck and us having a Steel type against a normal gym, I think that was handled pretty well, but I can definitely see where it could have gone wrong. First badge in the books. For winning, Bianca awards us with the return TM, then Charon sees her for the first time in 2 years. Bianca, you've returned. Get it? Upon arrival in Verbank City, we then witness a domestic dispute. Gotta love alliteration. Ooh, good one, Roxy. Shakespeare over here. Now, unfortunately, we can't get our next encounter until just after the next gym, so I guess there's nothing else we can do besides challenge it. Also, T-Swizzle better watch out, this band's about to do numbers. After wiping the floor with them, it's time for the second gym leader, Roxy, the poison-type gym leader, and boy oh boy can I ever not think of a better Pokemon to tackle it with. A part Steel and Psychic type, meaning we're not only immune to her Poison Stab or same type attack bonus moves, but we also have Stab Psychic type super effectiveness against her offensively, meaning her coughing could do nothing but assurance and we take it down in a few confusions. Normally her big plan here is poisoning your Pokemon with coughing and then sending in Whirlipede with Venoshock, which does double damage if the opponent is poisoned, but that ain't gonna work on us. However, that's not to say that she can't do damage, as Pursuit does about 6 HP per attack. And with her being incredibly bulky for this stage in the game, Confusion does a bit less than a third. Suddenly we're brought below half health before our Oranberry activates, thanks Alder. Then we barely don't KO on a Sliver before she heals almost fully. This back and forth has us get brought below half again, then hit to just 14 HP before we could finally take her down. A crit definitely would have made that scarier, but Mickey pulled through for the win and our second badge. Good job, you plate thing. Alright, I know I always go nuts talking about how much I hate PokeStar Studios, but I have news. I've finally thought of something worse. Being forced to eat a pickle, Greek yogurt, bone broth powder, gummy worm, and cinnamon toast crunch sandwich on sourdough bread, while playing through PokeStar Studios. Oh my, I'm so sorry for what they've done to you. Heading straight to the sewers like the rat I am, we find one of the most important items in the game for us, the Twisted Spoon to boost the power of psychic moves. Also, Gym Leader Berg at one point said that Team Plasma is bugging him. I see what you did there, my friend. Now technically the sewers do have our second encounter available to us, as they offer a secret entrance to the Relic Passage. One of 2 accessible entrances to it, the latter of which comes way later. In here we can find a Woobat, which I catch and nickname Bernstein, and who has a naive nature, giving him plus speed and minus special defense. Not bad. Not only that, but the sewers also allow us access to Castelia Park, where the city apparently started out, and in here we can find an Eevee that I named Mandela, with a bold plus defense and minus attack nature, which for our purposes is actually quite good. Castelia, being the largest city in the region, of course nets us a ton of wicked items, perhaps most notably the Eviolite, by going ahead to Route 4 to see a total of 40 Pokemon for the scientist. Amazing. Fortunately, the Massage Girl is located here, so after having Mandela get a massage and then running around like an absolute madman, since steps taken helps with friendship apparently, we can actually evolve 2 of our Pokemon, the first being Mandela into an Espeon, which isn't terribly useful for the next gym, but I'm sure will be handy later on. And the second is Bernstein, evolving into a Swoobat, definitely a more useful Pokemon for our immediate challenge. Speaking of which, it's time for the third gym leader, Berg, the Bug-type specialist, and although Bug is a scary type for our team, we have a bit of a secret weapon. Our fully evolved Bernstein, who can demolish his lead, Swadloon, with a stab 4x super effective air cutter since it's part grass type too. Incredible. Then comes his Dwebble, for which I send in Bronzor to counter, as with the part Steel type we're not weak to Bug and resist its other type, Rock. As a consequence, we can repeatedly tag him with Confusion, only getting hit by Feint Attack for not much damage thanks to the much needed help of the Eviolite, doubling an already bulky first stage Pokemon's defenses, meaning we only get hit for a third before we take it down. His final Pokemon and ace is then Leavanny, usually a terror for this early in game, but I can switch back into Bernstein, but we do get hit with a critical hit Razor Leaf, which does a surprising amount given that it's resisted, almost half, but we have one of the few things in the game that can outspeed it at this point, successfully landing the 95% accurate air cutter for the one-hit KO and the victory. Not bad, team, not bad at all. 3 badges in the books. Okay, not to sound ungrateful, but the Struggle Bug TM for winning? You know, something like Bug Buzz would be nice. Now don't get me wrong, I'm thrilled with the victory, but there's an even greater challenge ahead. Team Plasma Scientist Corus. And I kid you not, I spent like 20 minutes trying to figure out if there was any sort of TM, learn set move, items, something that would give us an advantage here, and there's nothing. Nothing at all. We've got to do this the hard way. Steel types counter psychic types insanely well, so I lead with our own Mickey, who tanks Spark reasonably well thanks to the Eviolite. I then confuse him with Confuse Ray before starting to tag him with Confusions, which do like nothing. He eventually paralyzes us too, making our prospects even grimmer. Couple that with the fact that he's super potioned to full health the moment we brought him into the red, then snapped out of confusion. Oh gosh, this is brutal. Several more turns of this nonsense, including staying paralyzed a couple times, and we were brought to just 10 HP in the red with only a quarter damage done on him. After all that. So I had to switch in Mandela, and he paralyzed us immediately on the switch, but our Synchronize ability at least did the same to him too. And here I went for a paraflinch strategy by repeatedly using Bite, and ultimately Mandela pulled it off at full health thanks to leftovers. I then used Growl on his incoming Clink to lower its attack, but it kept raising its special defense with Charge, and then Gear Grind still did some significant damage. So we got hurt to 19 HP after leftovers, and I was forced to go into Bernstein. This thing does have super effective Thundershock, but luckily Mandela chipped it down to about a quarter, so a few resisted assurances did the job since he kept using Charge. Whew, that was an utterly wild battle against two Pokemon that took over 8 minutes. Never again. At least we are rewarded for our efforts, as a guy in the house ahead gives us citrus berries and then says, "Speak to many people and good things will happen to you." They should have included a little addendum here for the kids playing this game. Unless you're downtown in any major city. Seriously, what is going on in the world? Up north in the desert resort interior, we can pick up some soft sand, which should be useful for a later encounter of ours, before we can then grab our next encounter, a Sigilyph, quite a strange Pokemon, but definitely a handy one. Now, I don't mean that it has like hands, it's like helpful, useful, damn it. Although we seem to have a bad habit of getting encounters that are weak to the next gym. I name him Febreze, and he's got a serious neutral nature. Cool. And unfortunately, another potential encounter of ours is locked just beyond where we can reach in the Relic Castle, and it would have been a key one for the next gym, but it's only in the final room. At least we can get the Rock Tomb TM though. Arriving in Nimbasa City, we encounter this old woman and... thank you for giving me a Soothe Bell after I evolved my 2 Friendship Evolution Pokemon. Heading to the northeast, we can grab another encounter on Route 5, this time a Gothita, which I catch and nickname Kit Kat, and who has a hasty plus speed and minus defense nature. Not terrible. It won't evolve until just after the level cap, but it's something. Okay, honestly, I don't blame this thing. If I was flexed on this hard, I'd be running around in panic too. The Pokemon Center here has some great TMs for sale, including Gyro Ball, which should help Mickey out quite a bit. Well, no more delaying, it's time for a gym leader I'm quite nervous about, Elisa, the Electric-type specialist. Her team looks incredibly tricky for ours, especially with 2 of our party being weak to Electric, but with my best plan in place, let's give it a shot. Against her Emolga, I lead with Mandela, hoping to just get some big damage off with Psybeam, but it's not quite enough to KO, just barely surviving in the red. Then it hits a super effective Pursuit, which our leftovers do help with. She then Hyper Potions, and I'm actually glad she used it here, as now we can land another attack to the red, then go for Priority Quick Attack just in case it was a speed tie, with leftovers healing us to nearly full thanks to the extra turns. Then in comes her Flaffy, which also barely survives a Psybeam, and then Volt switches into the big threat Zebstrika, which I was not expecting. I cannot switch since it has double power Pursuit, and Psybeam does big damage before its Citrus Berry heals it hugely. It then hits us hard to a quarter before our recovery, and it looks like we should have the range, but nope, it survives on just a sliver, and bam, Pursuit takes down Mandela instantly. Well, that range really messed us up, as again there's no way I'm attempting a switch with double power Pursuit looming. Here, I can at least go into Bernstein, another one of those rare Pokemon that can outspeed a Zebstrika at this point, taking it down with the 100% accuracy Assurance. Her final Pokemon is then her Flaffy, which barely survives an attack again somehow, and Static paralyzes us before we get smashed by Volt Switch. But Bernstein not only gets the clutch survival on just 8 HP on a sliver, but also makes it through paralysis for the KO from there. Damn, a super unfortunate loss of Mandela. Espeon is a fantastic Pokemon to have on your team, but our ranges were brutal with that Psybeam. 4 badges and our first death on the board. Part of me feels terrible doing a model catwalk with Elisa in celebration after the battle, but hey, at least my outfit's on fleek. Rest in peace, Mandela. I guess I have to strip your dead body of the leftovers it Okay, with that name, never mind. That feels wrong. Damn, a straight shot to the mouth. As a-holy as he was, Blue could never. Arriving in Driftvale City, a girl in one of the hotels says, "I have a twisted mind." Oh, tell me about it. If I saw a Simipour in real life, I would kill it on sight. Driftvale has some wonderful finds for us, including the Colored Shard Move Tutor, who offers us some good upgrades like Signal Beam for Kit Kat, and not only that, but one of the best items in the game is here too, the Expert Belt to further boost the power of super effective moves. Wonderful. But the upgrades aren't done yet, as we have a wicked evolution as Mickey fully evolves into a Bronzong, a defensive monster which we could use right about now. And our newly caught Kit Kat also evolves into a Gothorita, a great Eevee-like candidate for now. With that, it's time for the 5th gym leader, Clay, and although he's a ground type leader, he has a dark type and a steel type on his team, meaning he's going to be incredibly challenging for us, and it took me a while to theorycraft for this battle. Against his Intimidate Krokorok, I go in with Febreze, hoping to immediately land the Hypnosis, and we do. Nice. I then set up Reflect to help our team defensively, and then switch into Kit Kat while he stays asleep. He does wake up on the next turn though, and hits a Crunch, and gets the defense drop. No, why? My whole plan is ruined, as Signal Beam also just barely doesn't KO on a Sliver. He then Hyper Potions, and we bring him back down, but with that defense drop, I cannot stay in. So I go into Bernstein to tank another thanks to Reflect, which promptly goes down. Wasn't expecting it to be so soon due to that range earlier, but we can outspeed and knock it down on the next turn. Then comes a huge threat, Excadrill. With that steel typing and the fact that our Bronzong does not have Levitate, this is brutal, but I at least send in Mickey for the resisted Rock Slide, and then go into Febreze anticipating the Bulldoze, but he goes for Rock Slide again, but misses. What? I was sure he'd go for the super effective move, that was a close one. I now have to risk the Hypnosis, and we land it and get the Reflect back up on the next turn. I try to get some damage on him with Psybeam, which does very little, and then he goes for Bulldoze? What is with this trainer AI? Thankfully, we can put it to sleep again on the next turn, then Febreze gets a clutch Psybeam crit, although his Citrus Berry heals him. Another attack brings him to a third before we set up Reflect again, and Rock Slide hits us for a third. Then we miss Hypnosis, and another attack brings us to a third. Our berry does help to the point I'm comfortable staying in, but then we miss Hypnosis again. Why? That could have saved us. Now I'm forced to switch, and with his AI doing insane things, and with me left with no choice, I go into Mickey, and he does Rock Slide, but then we flinch and Reflect goes down. I stay in and go for Confuse Ray at least, and then go into Bernstein, and he makes it through confusion to use Metal Claw to bring us low. I have no choice but to attack here. And we get the flinch on Air Slash. Oh man, clutch beyond belief as another gets just the range to take that thing down. Bernstein, you legend. But it's not over yet, as in comes his last Pokemon, Sandslash. I switch in Mickey, and he gets the defense drop on Crush Claw before then taking him down with Bulldoze. Again, with this AI behaving so strangely, I didn't know what to do or what I could risk, but we don't get the confusion that I wanted off. Brutal. I did forget to give Mickey the leftovers before the battle, which might have factored in, but I'm not sure. At least we get the switch momentum now to switch in Kit Kat freely, and he misses Crush Claw, saving the battle as we can land 2 Psybeams to KO from there, as he only went for Rollout, not Bulldoze. Man, that AI threw me off. Genuinely, I had no idea what he was doing, which made things 100 times more dangerous. And that crunch defense drop at the beginning really threw me off. Well, losing a Bronzong literally has me lose hope for successfully completing this challenge, but we made it through for the badge. Rest in peace to our one defensive presence. That's a rough one. And to think just having Espeon with Signal Beam would have saved us. Ouch. A long journey then brings us to the final room in the Relic Passage, and a bug-type Volcarona is frightening to say the least. I'm not here for you, big guy, I just want our Baltoy encounter. Only available here, and as I learned from a trainer earlier, this thing does have self-destruct, so I throw a quick ball immediately, and got it. Okay, another defensive presence acquired, and I did not want to lose that one. I name him Monopoly, and he has a plus special defense and minus speed nature, which is fine for a slow, bulky mon. After picking up a metal coat in the Chargestone Cave for our eventual steel replacement, we can also grab the Sharp Beak in Mistralton City Airport, great for our flying types. And climbing up the Celestial Tower, we actually have a new encounter in here, an Elgium. Not too often you get to use one of these things. I name her Fruit Loom, and she's got an adamant nature, plus attack and minus special attack. The worst possible one. I legit dropped a hard F-bomb when I saw this. It is not good. Before the next gym though, we have one upgrade as Monopoly fully evolves into a clay doll, which should be a huge help. The 6th gym leader is Skyla, the flying specialist, and the romantic interest of apparently everyone on Twitter. She leads with a Swoobat of her own, and I decide to go in with Fruit Loom with the Eviolite attached since we can't get attracted. She hit us twice to below half before Headbutt does the same to her, and she hits us to just 16 HP in the red before we bring her low. Knowing she's got a Hyper Potion now, I go into Kit Kat, and we get attracted right off the bat. We do land a Signal Beam for a third though, then Assurance gets a crit on us to nearly half. Acrobatics then slams us to a Sliver before our Citrus Berry, and then we land a Psychic to bring her low. This thing is pesky, but I know I can go into Febreze to tank Acrobatics with the Leftovers help, then Outspeed with the Air Cutter KO from there. Sheesh. In comes Swanna, a huge threat, and we miss Air Cutter on the first turn, but thankfully she just went for Feather Dance, so we land the next one for just less than half before Air Slash does the same to us. I am desperately hoping for a crit on this one, but nope, it survives on a Sliver before its Berry and then uses Roost. Okay, more chances for a crit I guess, but we don't get it, although we do land the final one to take it down with us on a 3rd health. Her final Pokemon's then Skarmory, which you'd imagine to be a monster against a Psychic team. However, we have a secret weapon. Monopoly, who not only resists Steel Wing, but is a huge defensive presence who I put the Rocky Helmet on from the Pokemon World Tournament, meaning she hurts herself every time she attacks us. I then use Ancient Power twice, and Monopoly gets the Omni Boost, monopolizing the battle entirely and outspeeding it on the final turn to finish it off for our 6th badge. Wowza. Now that's what I like to see. Nothing like trusting a complete stranger to fly a plane to an unknown destination to fulfill an unknown request for another stranger. Gotta love it. But this is going to allow us to catch an encounter I've been desperately waiting for in the exterior of Reversal Mountain, Grumpig, one of my personal faves. It is my declared mission to make this thing useful for the first time ever, as I name him Shaggy, who has a plus speed and minus special defense nature. Grabbing the Shadow Ball TM behind this building should be quite handy before... do I have to? We enter the strange house. I mean, come on, Halloween's over. My wife already forced me to watch horror movies that I could not handle. The spell tag better be worth it. Alright, I'm not gonna be scared this time. I'm gonna ask her out on a date. Here we go. What the f***? With some training under our belt, we have some incredible evolutions as Kit Kat fully evolves into a Gothitelle, a Pokemon I have very rarely used, and Fruit Loom doesn't want to miss out apparently and fully evolves into a Behem. Yeah, that previous statement also applies to this thing. Guess we'll have to see how these two turn out. And another test is upon us as we have our first battle with Hugh in a long while. Definitely one of the improved parts of this game over the original Black and White, which shoved rival battles in your face every 5 minutes. I lead with Fruit Loom against his Unfezant, and we apparently have a base 125 special attack, which brings him to the red instantly after he uses Taunt. He then heals fully with a Hyper Potion, then 2 more do the trick since he just taunted again after a Detect. In comes Simisage next, and he lands a Leer before Psychic also brings him low. Seed Bomb then does just over half because of the defense drop, and another hit tags him. His final Pokemon is then Samurott, and I bring in Kit Kat on the field to tank Revenge with no problem. Then he for some reason used Encore, so we hit a Psychic. And damn, Kit Kat, you didn't have to do him that dirty. A crit 1-hit KO. Alrighty then, guess our evolutions are serving us well. But more importantly here is surfing on the waters of Undella Town, as this offers our next encounter, a Staryu which I nickname Big Boat. Now that's an encounter I think we desperately need. But the fun's not over yet, as on the very next route, Route 13, we can find and catch a Solrock that I named Jiffy. Traveling all the way back to the first town in the game, we can go slightly up north to Route 19 now that we have Surf in order to get the Water Stone, which might be a game changer. Okay, turns out the fighting type Virizion is apparently not intimidated by our team? Huh. Guess we'll move forward to Opelucid, the location of the next gym. Before that, I make sure to use our Water Stone on Big Boat to evolve him into a Starmie, and then I go to Route 13 to pick up one of the most important items in the game for us, the Psychic TM. About time. Making our way through the Opelucid gym, we eventually arrive at Drayden, the Dragon-type specialist, and I was so mad that the Ice Beam TM is only available right after his gym. Well played, Game Freak. I was gonna Cosmic Power and then Expert Belt Ice Beam the living crap out of his team, but I gotta go on with a different strat now. Against his lead Druddigon, I lead with Febreze, using Reflect right away before tanking a Crunch. Hypnosis then misses as Crunch tags us to a third, but our Berry heals us substantially, so I feel safe to try it again, but another miss. Entire plan ruined. But I realize there's nothing I can really do, so I just go for it again, and it lands at our last opportunity. Whew. Now I switch in Big Boat with the Metronome attached, landing a Psychic, and he stays asleep so another gets the job done. Psychic is increasing in power every time it hits, so as his Flygon comes in, we can outspeed it and smash it to the red. Crunch does hit us hard below half, but after he Hyper Potions, we just hit it to a sliver again, and I don't mind, as this raises our Metronome power even further. Then comes his ace, Haxorus, and I think we should have enough power at this point as Big Boat hits him, and boom, sends him to the Netherworld with a mind-bending attack. What an unbelievable debut performance. I think I'm gonna like this thing. Unlike its Mega. But we won't go there. You know, it just occurred to me that this floating pirate ship is entirely a copyright violation of the Edge Chronicles series. Shout out to any of you legends who are familiar with it. Except this one shoots ice, so maybe they got a patent? Who knows? As it turns out, Jiffy is just incredible against Team Plasma, handling their Garbodor, Golbat, Watchog, Mux, Seviper, and Weezing with either super effectiveness or resistance against them. Plasma Destroyer 9000 over here. Up next is a battle I've been scared about all game, Zinzalin. I mean, 3 ice types, one of which is a damn Weavile, probably the scariest Pokemon in the game for us, super effective against every single one of our roster? Yikes. It took me a while to plan something, but I think we may have a shot. I lead with Jiffy against his Cryogonal, which hits an Ice Beam for nearly half before Jiffy lands the Stone Edge. Yes! That was legitimately the only chance I think we had at surviving this. Now we just have to hope for no crit from Weavile's Night Slash, as this alone is our win condition. And no crit, and my calcs were correct it seems, as we survive it on just 7 HP and land the higher accuracy Rock Slide, which I knew would still be enough to get the one shot. Holy, an extraordinarily risky play, but again, the only way I saw through that. In comes his second Cryogonal, and I switch into Shaggy immediately, who gets hit by Ice Beam. A crit would kill, so I instead decide to swap into Big Boat, hoping to bait the resisted Ice Beam, but he goes for Light Screen instead. Not ideal, as now Power Gem barely doesn't KO, although it was a crit, so Big Boat comes in clutch again and finishes him off. One of the riskiest battles I foresaw actually turned out well for us. I'm surprised. Route 22 north of Humalau then offers us another encounter opportunity, Jiffy's counterpart in fact, a Lunatone, which I catch in a Dusk Ball and name Looney. In keeping with tradition, terribly unuseful for the next gym. And in no time we make it to the 8th and final gym leader, Marlin, and you can imagine what the big threat is here. His hugely bulky and powerful part Ghost type Jellicent. He leads with Caracosta though, so I get Shaggy out there, and I taught him the Charge Beam TM from Lentimus Town, and with the Expert Belt we're able to bring him below half, but we don't get the 50-50 special attack raise. Damn. Crunch does just less than half on us, and then I hit him again, and we do get it. Nice. Then in it comes, Jellicent, as I now go for the more powerful +1 Expert Belt boosted Shadow Ball, and it doesn't quite KO as he hits an Ominous Wind, and Shaggy tanks it on a sliver before being able to outspeed thanks to our plus speed nature, taking that giant threat down. And Cursed Body was my big fear as it disables Shadow Ball just after we needed it. Whew. In comes Wailord next, and this thing is a bulky nuisance, but since it goes up for bounce, I can just use Recover with Fruit Loom so that when he hits us, we auto-heal, but he does paralyze us on contact. Not only that, but he also boosts his special defense with Amnesia, and suddenly I'm starting to get a bit nervous, but Fruit Loom does get the special defense drop with Psychic. That might have saved us as the two of them duke it out, although we did get hit by a crit Scald, making this unwinnable for Fruit Loom. So I go into Big Boat, who from this range is able to get the job done thanks to the fact that we could Cosmic Power to raise our defenses every time he went up for bounce before landing a couple Psychics to finish him. Epic. That's all 8 badges down, but the biggest challenges are yet to come. Bro, have you seen my team? Why are you just standing there? Okay, this has made me genuinely wonder what a seal sounds like. I mean, the Pokemon, not that animal real-life seal. Wait, why does that actually seem accurate? Finally, we now get access to the Ice Beam TM, offering us some great coverage that we've desperately needed. And thank goodness we get access to a small part of the Crater Forest part of the Giant Chasm, as this offers us our very final encounter, and definitely among the best ones, a Metang, just a 10% chance to find, which was my very first wild encounter here. It's Fate. And as is tradition, since it's the last Pokemon that we're allowed to catch, I heave my Master Ball at the damn thing and name him Captain. Captain? How do you say that? Aye, Captain. We're just gonna go with Captain, okay? Okay. And this late in the game, we can evolve him immediately into a monster Metagross, who I think might just be able to save this run. Also, side note, but this is the first time I've ever seen telepathy be handy in a Nuzlocke, as I wouldn't have been able to tell you what it did had you asked me before this, but it allows Starmie to use Surf in double battles without hurting Fruit Loom at all. Pretty sick. And now that we have Metagross, we can handle Zinzalin quite easy, which is just a godsend, I'm not gonna lie. But here we have one of the scariest battles in the entire game, Corus at full power. Remember how much trouble he caused us with just 2 first stage Pokemon? Well, now he's got a ridiculous team of Steel types. Let's give it our best. Against his Eviolite Magneton lead, I go in with Monopoly, and because he has Sturdy, we tank Flash Cannon for a third, before using Ancient Power for a shot at the Omni Boost, but nah, we don't get it. At least we can now 4x stab super effective Earth Power him for the KO before our leftovers heal us a bit after his second attack. Then comes Magnezone, whose Flash Cannon I do think might KO from here, so I go into Big Boat to resist it. Then I keep baiting the electric moves onto Monopoly switches so we can steadily raise our HP with leftovers freely. I then go into Captain to easily tank another and hit Psychic to break his Sturdy, but then he paralyzes us with Thunder Wave. But our Lumberry from Join Avenue heals us, so I go into Monopoly expecting another, which works, giving us even more recovery, and Earth Power obliterates it from there. In comes Behem next, so I go into Shaggy, but he went for Calm Mind. I start spamming Shadow Ball, hoping for the special defense drop as he keeps Calm Minding and then uses Recover twice. But we do get a drop on our 4th attack, meaning our 5th has just the range despite his extra Calm Mind. Then comes Klinklang, which has an air balloon, so I go into Monopoly right away, and this was crazy. He uses Shift Gear a couple times, and I used Ancient Power to pop it and hope for the Omni Boost again, but nope. Now I go for Earth Power, which surprisingly doesn't do enough, but I was like, he's only got resisted moves, and we're at near full health, so we're fine. So he heals, we miss the range again, and then he outspeeds with a Giga Impact of all things, which pretty much gets the one-hit KO on our bulkiest Mon. What the hell was that? I did not like that at all, but at least from here, Captain can come in and spam Brick Break from the Pokemon World Tournament rewards to take it down, and his lesser counterpart too, Metang, from there. Poor Monopoly. We had that in the bag apart from one blunder, but I was expecting even more difficulty to be honest, so I'll take it. Up next is this insane legendary cutscene, which is just wild given that this was on the DS back in the day, and that leads us to the final plasma boss, Ghetsis, and honestly, this one's gonna hurt. There's no way around it. His team is too versatile and has too many brutal threats for ours. I'm just hoping we can make it through it all. Against his Cofagrigus, I go in with Febreze since Magic Guard cancels out any potential toxic damage, and with the Wide Lens attached, we land Hypnosis. Then start hitting Shadow Ball, but he woke up and did land a Toxic, but again that won't do anything to us. As another takes him down. Then comes Electros, a Pokemon with no weaknesses, and we no longer have a ground type switch in, so I go into Shaggy instead. With Flamethrower and Crunch, this thing is a menace, but we tank the electric move and land a Toxic as I wanted. Crunch then does huge damage to the red before our berry, and we cannot take another, so I go into Fruit Loom, who I attached the Rocky Helmet on, so that chip damage combined with Toxic and Fruit Loom tanking 2 crunches on just 21 HP allows us the Psychic KO. 2 threats down, but in comes a huge one, Drapion, and there's only one strat I could think of for this thing. Going into Febreze, tanking the resisted X-Scissor since he would choose a move randomly since Fruit Loom was in range of any of them, but we miss Hypnosis, and then we tank a non-crit Night Slash before landing one. Goodness gracious. I then go into Captain for the Meteor Mash for huge damage, and then he full restores, but that opens up a chance to Brick Break and then Meteor Mash him for the KO after he hit another non-crit Night Slash. That was a huge threat down. Now comes Seismitoad, a giant threat for Captain, so I go into Febreze for the Earthquake immunity and then cross my fingers as Hypnosis hits. Whew. A death save there as I go for Air Slash, hoping that if he does wake up he'll flinch, but he doesn't, so a Psychic from there gets the KO. In comes Toxicroak next, and it looks like we have a good matchup, but he's got Sucker Punch, so I go into Kit Kat predicting it, and it works. And with our plus speed nature, we surprisingly outspeed him on the next turn with the stab 4 times damage Psychic. Let's go! But then in it comes his final Pokemon, Hydreigon. Right up there with Weavile in terms of its threat level to us, and Crunch slams Kit Kat down to a sliver before our Berry, and we land the Charm to lower its attack by 2 stages. With this thing now crippled, we can send in our one Pokemon not weak to Dark, Captain, who now tanks it well, and after his Life Orb damage on 3 attacks, Brick Break has the range to take it down. And it wins us the battle deathless. Honestly, I went into this battle actively expecting to lose at least 2 Pokemon, but wow, that was clutch. A long trek through Victory Road then has us arrive at our final rival battle against Hugh, and his Unpheasant gets pulverized by Big Boat's Expert Bell Ice Beam off the bat. Goodbye, Turkey Boy. Then comes Bouffalant, a huge threat with Mega Horn, so I go into Captain to tank it well with Leftovers help. Then 2 Brick Breaks down it as we get hit below half by Earthquake. Then comes Samurott, which I was going to have Fruit Loom handle, but wham, a crit right off the bat from Surf. Yikes. So I instead go into Febreze, predicting the X-Scissor, and then put it to sleep before 2 Psychics down him. I knew Simisage would then go for Crunch, and I played it a bit risky to get Big Boat out there as it did more than half, which I was not expecting, but this allows the Expert Belt Ice Beam KO as one of the few things that can outspeed a base 101 speed Pokemon. That win not only grants us the Thunderbolt TM, which I've wanted for a while, but also access to the final test, the Unova Region Pokemon League. After 3 crafting like a madman and getting any remaining items and TMs we might need for this challenge, it's time to take on the Elite Four. The first Elite Four member is a daunting one, the Ghost-type expert Shauntal, and I'm not kidding when I say I spent 20 minutes trying to figure out a way to beat her alone. Against her Cofagrigus lead, I go in with Febreze, with Hypnosis doing its job as a few Expert Belt Shadow Balls do the trick after she full restored. Then comes Drifblim, and the same strategy fortunately works on it. It's a risky one, but it's our only option, trust me, as 2 Shadow Balls again down that balloony gal. Then comes perhaps the biggest threat, Chandelure, as I try our luck again, and nope, we miss Hypnosis, meaning Chandelure instantly one-hit KOs Febreze off the bat. And that is why I had that strategy. Literally any attack from any of our Pokemon is a risk for one-hit KOing any of ours. Except Shaggy apparently, who tanks one on just 11 HP on a sliver and lands an attack, which gets a crit to save the day. No way, Shaggy the legend. Her final Pokemon is then a Golurk as I switch in Starmie to tank Earthquake, and a Surf does the job from there. Wow, that was scary, but only 1 death. Honestly, I'll take it. Rest in peace, Febreze, you sure kept it clean up in here. The next Elite Four member I decide to take on is Caitlyn, our Psychic-type arch-nemesis. Basically, my plan here was to take advantage of her lead Musharna, which only has things like Yawn and Charge Beam, and despite getting put to sleep after our attack, we do land a couple Shadow Balls to take her down. Sigilyph then gets hit hard with 2 Shadow Balls, and we don't wake up, so I have to switch into Big Boat to tank another, but it does a bit too much. So I go into Captain, who's not weak to it, and then he crits us, and we miss Meteor Mash. You've gotta be kidding me. We get hit low before landing one, and we tank the last one on just 30 HP before KOing that damn thing. Her final 2 Pokemon are Reuniclus and Gothitelle, and Shaggy eats up the incoming Focus Blast and amazingly ends both of them with just red HP left in the end. Shaggy coming through when it matters most. I then decide to challenge the Fighting-type expert Marshall, and don't think it's an easy victory. He's got some tricks up his sleeve. His lead pro is even able to survive Big Boat's Expert Belt boosted stab super effective Psychic, but incredibly he missed his Rock Tomb. Quite a miracle, so 2 more take him down after he healed. Mienshao is a big threat, but we have one of the few things in the game that can outspeed him, getting the instant one-hit KO. Then comes Sock, which not only has Sturdy, but Payback too, but we've got no choice, so we hit him to it, then we get hit, and no crit, so Big Boat tanks it on just 11 HP on a sliver and can take him down from there. His final Pokemon is then a bulky and strong as hell beast, Conkeldurr, but with slightly lower special defense, Big Boat gets the range on Psychic to complete the sweep, showing he's the supreme boat around here. Whatever that means. The last Elite Four member is Grimsley, and I waited until the end to challenge him as his dark types are a huge threat, so I wanted to make sure we were at the highest level when facing him as opposed to Caitlyn or Marshall. He leads with a tricky Liepard, and our only answer is Captain shrugging off the fake out with leftovers and tanking a neutral Night Slash before clobbering it with Brick Break. This then baits in a monster Crocodile, and although Clear Body does cancel Intimidate, we cannot stay in. So I go into Bernstein, who's making his late game debut, haven't seen him in a while, and Air Slash doesn't get the flinch, then Crunch is an immediate one-shot. Well, can't say we weren't expecting that, but the sack was worth it as this gives us a chance to get Big Boat on the field for the clean Surf knockout. Then comes Scrafty, another big threat against Psychic types, and Captain is our only answer, as he went for Rock Tomb interestingly enough, so Brick Break annihilates him with a crit. Take us home, Captain, as the biggest threat of all is next, Bisharp. But Captain is again our one answer, tagging him with the 4x damage Brick Break for the victory. Let's go! Well, somehow, someway, we've made it to the final challenge. The champion of the Unova region, Iris, who again has a wickedly powerful and versatile team, and has the bane of our existence, Hydreigon, as a lead of all things. But I lead the battle with Kit Kat as she actually does not have a dark move, as Dragon Pulse does a third before Signal Beam does just less than half, unfortunately. Another brings us below half before our berry, and then we tag her to what must be like 2 HP before she full restores. Well, she's gotta use one at some point, I suppose, as another round of this, and Kit Kat with the monster crit to save the day. Oh man. But then, in comes Haxorus, another huge threat which instantly smashes Kit Kat with X-Scissor. Ouch. Here I bring in Shaggy as she dragon dances, and we land the Toxic to put it on a timer. That's key since she has a Focus Sash anyway, and then she dragon dances again. Oh no. As Psyshock brings her below half in conjunction with Toxic, but then X-Scissor obliterates Shaggy. Not ideal, and at this point I realized I had to sack someone as she's got X-Scissor and Earthquake even. With only 2 Pokemon remaining, I decide Big Boat will be the one to take the hit, going down as Toxic at least brings Haxorus down to its knees. It's all on Captain now. Can he live up to his name? I doubt it with her having 4 Pokemon left. In comes Druddigon as Meteor Mash does 3/4, and we get the attack raise. Holy cow! She then hits a flamethrower and no burn, so another annihilates her. Come on, Captain, keep pushing. As Aggron then comes in, and with that attack raise, the 4x damage Brick Break obliterates her. Then comes Lapras as super effective Brick Break doesn't quite KO on a sliver even at +1, but Surf only brings us below half before leftovers and another seals the deal. Her final Pokemon is then a speedy Archeops, but we resist literally all 4 of her different type moves. Rock, Flying, Normal, and Dragon, what are the odds? So a final Meteor Mash from our Captain, oh Captain, gets the job done. You've gotta be kidding me, I thought that was over. We did it, we beat a Hardcore Nuzlocke of Pokemon Black 2 using only Psychic types, and we did it with having 1 singular Pokemon left with under half health. That was way more challenging than I was expecting. This game had so many threats for Psychic types, but our team pulled through. Thanks so much for watching, everyone. I hope you enjoyed, and if you did, don't forget to leave a like, hype the video using the new feature, and subscribe for more Pokemon content. I'll see you guys next time for another Pokemon challenge.